Hello, I'm Calming Waves, and I invite you to settle in as I share a chilling tale that blurs the line between reality and the supernatural. Wherever you're listening from, day or night, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to know what time it is for you. The Old Crestwood Hotel stood on the outskirts of a small town, its weathered facade whispering secrets of a time long past. Built in the early 1900s, it had welcomed countless guests over the decades, but the stories that lingered in its halls were often darker than anyone could imagine. Locals warned against staying overnight. They spoke of flickering lights, cold drafts, and the eerie feeling of being watched. Yet one fateful autumn, a group of college friends decided to spend a weekend there, drawn by the thrill of ghost stories and the allure of the unknown. As they arrived, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the creaking floorboards. The group quickly checked in, joking nervously as they ascended the staircase, the wooden steps groaning under their weight. Room 121 awaited them, a room notorious for its history of unexplained phenomena. They settled in, sharing tales of ghostly encounters, laughing to drown out the unease creeping in. But as night fell, the atmosphere shifted. An unsettling silence enveloped the hotel, punctuated only by the distant sound of wind rattling the windows. Around midnight, one of the friends, Edith, awoke to a strange noise, a soft, persistent tapping that seemed to come from the old wardrobe. Rousing her friends, she insisted they investigate. They approached the wardrobe, hearts racing with excitement and fear. As they swung open the doors, they found nothing but a pile of dust and an old, forgotten mirror. Yet, when Edith glanced into the reflection, her breath hitched. Behind her stood a figure, a woman in a tattered white dress, her eyes hollow and her expression sorrowful. The moment Edith turned around, the figure vanished, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Shaken but intrigued, the group decided to document their experience. They pulled out their phones, eager to capture any signs of the paranormal. As they reviewed the footage, they noticed something peculiar. In the background of their laughter and chatter, a faint voice could be heard, a whisper saying, "Help me." The friends exchanged worried glances, the thrill of their adventure now replaced by a growing dread. Later that night, as they attempted to sleep, the tapping returned, louder this time, accompanied by the sound of heavy footsteps in the corridor. One by one, they awoke, feeling a suffocating presence pressing against their chests. The room grew colder, and the air thickened with a sense of impending doom. Desperate to escape, they rushed to the door, only to find it locked tight, as if held by an unseen force. Panic set in as they pounded on the door, shouting for help, but their voices echoed back, swallowed by the oppressive silence. Finally, as dawn began to break, the door creaked open on its own. The friends stumbled out into the empty hallway. Disoriented and terrified, they fled the hotel, vowing never to return. As they drove away, Edith glanced back at the Old Crestwood Hotel. There, in the window of room 121, stood the woman in white, her sad eyes watching them leave, her ghostly presence forever tied to the stories of those who dared to stay. To this day, the Old Crestwood Hotel remains abandoned, a ghostly relic of the past. Locals still share whispers of the haunting, warning travelers to stay away. And as for Edith and her friends, they never spoke of that night again, but the memory of the woman in white still lingers in their minds, a reminder of the darkness that can dwell within even the most seemingly innocent places. As the sun rose higher, casting light on the twisted branches and broken windows of the Old Crestwood Hotel, Edith and her friends found themselves unable to shake off the unease that settled deep within them. Their weekend plans had been meant for fun, but now they were haunted by an experience that felt all too real. Each of them tried to move on, to laugh it off as just a spooky story, but the weight of that encounter clung to them like fog. Weeks passed, and they returned to their college life, but the ghostly image of the woman in white haunted Edith's dreams. Night after night, she found herself standing in that dimly lit room, feeling the chilling presence behind her, always just out of reach. She confided in her friends, who each shared their own disturbing dreams and feelings of unease. It was as if the hotel had woven itself into their lives, threading its shadows through their waking hours. One night, feeling restless and desperate for answers, Edith suggested they visit a local historian known for his knowledge of the town's eerie past. The friends gathered in a small cafe, sharing coffee and anxious glances, as they prepared to confront the lingering terror that had upended their lives. The historian, an elderly man with a weathered face and deep-set eyes, listened intently as they recounted their experience. When they mentioned the woman in white, his expression darkened. "That's Eleanor," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "She was a bride who came to the hotel for her honeymoon over 50 years ago. Tragically, she was left waiting when her fiancé disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Heartbroken, she wandered the halls, searching for him until her own life slipped away in despair. Many say she never left." The weight of his words hung in the air, tightening around them like a vice. They listened as he spoke of other sightings, of whispers in the night, and fleeting glimpses of Eleanor's sorrowful figure. Each account mirrored their own experiences, sending chills down their spines. The historian leaned closer, his eyes piercing through the dim light. "If you saw her, it means she's reaching out. She may need your help to find peace." That night, they gathered at Edith's apartment, discussing what they had learned. They felt a mix of fear and a strange sense of purpose. Maybe Eleanor had chosen them for a reason. The thought both terrified and fascinated them. They devised a plan to return to the Old Crestwood Hotel, armed with a deeper understanding of what they were facing. As they drove back to the hotel, tension hung thick in the air. The sun set quickly, and darkness enveloped them as they approached the imposing structure. They parked under the flickering street lamp and stepped out, a blend of apprehension and resolve coursing through their veins. The hotel loomed above them, its silhouette stark against the night sky, and for a moment they hesitated. But Edith's determination surged. "We can't leave her like this," she urged, leading the way up the creaking steps. Inside, the air felt electric, charged with a mix of dread and anticipation. They made their way to room 121, their hearts racing as they entered the room once more. The wardrobe still stood against the wall, a sentinel of secrets waiting to be uncovered. With trembling hands, they gathered around the old mirror, its surface tarnished with age. Edith closed her eyes and spoke aloud. "Eleanor, we're here to help you. We want to hear your story." The room grew still, the silence heavy with expectation. Just as doubt began to creep in, a soft breeze rustled through the room and the lights flickered ominously. In the mirror's reflection, Edith saw the outline of the woman in white. Eleanor stood behind them, her expression a mixture of sadness and longing. "Help me find him," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody that seemed to reverberate through the walls. Tears streamed down Edith's face as she felt the weight of the tragedy pressing down on her. "We will help you, I promise," she said, her voice steady despite the fear churning inside her. The friends rallied together, determined to uncover the truth of Eleanor's lost love, to finally set her spirit free. As they began their search for answers, they realized that this haunting was not just a tale of terror, but a story of love, loss, and longing, a story waiting to be told. They delved into local archives, spoke to elderly residents, and pieced together fragments of Eleanor's life, determined to bring closure to a ghost trapped between worlds. But as they unraveled the mystery, they quickly learned that some secrets are buried deep for a reason. The more they uncovered, the more intense the haunting became, and soon they found themselves entangled in a web of sorrow that threatened to consume them all. Would they be able to bring peace to Eleanor's restless spirit? Or would they find themselves lost in the very darkness they sought to escape? As they continued their journey, the shadows grew longer, and the echoes of the past whispered ominously in their ears. Would they dare to face what awaited them at the end of the story? As Edith and her friends immersed themselves in Eleanor's past, They stumbled upon a series of old letters hidden in the dusty archives of the local library. The letters were penned by a man named Thomas, Eleanor's fiancé, whose words dripped with love and longing. Each letter detailed their dreams for the future, plans for their wedding, and sweet promises to one another. But the last letter was different. It was frantically written, filled with desperation, and it hinted at a dark secret that had forced Thomas to leave. "Something's not right," Edith murmured as she read the final lines aloud. "I'm being watched, Eleanor. I fear for my life. If anything happens to me, know that I love you." The group exchanged worried glances, the gravity of the situation settling heavily on their shoulders. What could have happened to him? Alex, one of their friends, asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think he really disappeared, or—" His words trailed off, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. Determined to uncover the truth, they scoured the town for anyone who might remember Thomas or had heard stories about his fate. Their search led them to an old woman named Agnes, who lived in a ramshackle house at the edge of town. The locals spoke of her as a keeper of secrets, someone who had seen the town's history unfold. When they knocked on her door, Agnes welcomed them in, her eyes sparkling with a mix of wisdom and mischief. As they shared their findings, Agnes listened intently, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "You're stirring up old ghosts, my dear," she warned, her voice steady yet filled with a hint of fear. "The truth about Thomas is buried deep, and not everyone wants it to see the light of day." With that cryptic warning, Agnes recounted a tale of jealousy and betrayal, a story of a love triangle that spiraled into tragedy. Thomas had been engaged to Eleanor, but he was also entangled with a woman named Lydia, who had harbored a dark obsession. Agnes's voice dropped to a whisper. Lydia was known to dabble in dark practices. They say she cursed him to keep him away from Eleanor. The revelation sent a chill down Edith's spine. If Lydia had truly cursed Thomas, it would explain his desperate farewell. But what could they do to help Eleanor now? The connection between the two women, one seeking love, the other consumed by jealousy, seemed to weave a tangled web of sorrow that still trapped Eleanor in the hotel. Fueled by a mix of fear and determination, the friends decided they needed to confront the truth head-on. They returned to the Old Crestwood Hotel, armed with the letters and Agnes's warnings. As they entered room 121 once more, the atmosphere felt charged with energy, as if the very walls were alive with Eleanor's pain. "Eleanor," Edith called softly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We know about Thomas. We're here to help you find him and put an end to this." Suddenly, the lights flickered and dimmed. The temperature dropped, and they felt a familiar chill sweep through the room. In the mirror, Eleanor's figure materialized, her expression more defined now. There was desperation in her eyes, but also hope. "Thank you for seeking the truth," she whispered, her voice echoing as though from a great distance. "But you must be careful. Lydia still watches, and she will not let him go without a fight." Determined to confront the lingering darkness, the friends devised a plan to hold a seance, hoping to reach Thomas and break the curse once and for all. They gathered items that had belonged to Eleanor, her wedding veil, a photograph of her and Thomas, and the letters he had written. In the dim light of the room, they formed a circle, each person holding a hand to maintain their connection. With trembling voices, they called upon Eleanor and Thomas, urging them to reveal the truth and to guide them to a resolution. As they chanted softly, the air around them began to swirl. The room vibrated with energy, and suddenly, a shadowy figure emerged in the corner, a silhouette of a man, his expression one of anguish. "Thomas," Edith called out, her heart racing. "Is that you?" The figure nodded slowly, the shadows flickering like flames. "Help me," he pleaded, his voice a tortured whisper. "Lydia's curse binds me to this place. I cannot find peace without confronting her." The friends felt a surge of determination. They needed to find Lydia and put an end to the torment she had inflicted. But where could they find her? Agnes had mentioned that Lydia had lived in the town long ago, but no one spoke of her now. It was as if she had vanished, leaving only whispers in her wake. As they concluded the séance, the energy in the room shifted, leaving them breathless. They realized they had to act quickly. Time was running out. They agreed to search for Lydia's last known whereabouts, digging deeper into the town's history. With renewed resolve, they set off into the night, determined to confront the shadows of the past. The town was shrouded in darkness, but they felt a strange connection guiding them forward. A thread that linked them to Eleanor and Thomas, and to a story that was far from over. What would they uncover as they ventured into the depths of Lydia's past? And would they be able to confront her dark legacy before it consumed them all? As Edith and her friends moved through the moonlit streets, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. They followed the whispers of the town's history, seeking clues that could lead them to Lydia. They headed toward the old part of town, where crumbling buildings stood as relics of a time long forgotten. Their first stop was the town's historical society, a small brick building that exuded an air of faded elegance. The curator, a middle-aged woman with glasses perched precariously on her nose, welcomed them with a curious glance. When they mentioned Lydia, her expression changed to one of unease. Lydia was a troubled woman, she began, her voice low. She lived in a small house near the woods. People say she practiced dark magic. She was feared and shunned after Thomas disappeared. No one knows what happened to her, but some say she still wanders the forest, searching for something or someone. The curator handed them an old map, marking the location of Lydia's last known residence. It lay on the outskirts of town, bordered by thick woods that seemed to breathe shadows. As they set out, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on their hearts. They felt as if they were stepping into the pages of a dark fairy tale, with each step echoing the stories of love, loss, and vengeance. When they arrived at Lydia's former home, they were struck by its eerie beauty. The house was overgrown with ivy, its windows shattered like broken promises. As they stepped inside, the air was thick with dust and despair. They could almost feel the echoes of Lydia's life reverberating around them. "Let's search for anything that could help us," Alex suggested, trying to break the heavy silence. They split up, combing through the remnants of Lydia's life. In the dim light, they uncovered old books filled with strange symbols and faded photographs of Lydia and Thomas, each image hinting at a love that had twisted into something dark. In a hidden drawer, Edith found a small, ornate box. It was locked, but the intricate design seemed familiar. It was reminiscent of the trinkets Eleanor had kept. With a deep breath, she felt compelled to open it. The box clicked open, revealing a collection of trinkets, a silver locket, a withered rose, and an old key. "Do you think this could be important?" she asked, holding the key up to the light. The others gathered around, their curiosity piqued. "It could be the key to breaking Lydia's curse," Edith mused, her mind racing with possibilities. "But we need to figure out what it unlocks." Just then, a chilling wind swept through the house, extinguishing the light from their flashlights. In the darkness, they heard a soft whisper, "Leave this place." Panic surged through them, but they stood their ground, determined not to be driven away by fear. "Lydia, we're not here to harm you," Edith called into the darkness, her voice steady. "We want to help you find peace." The shadows swirled, and suddenly, a figure emerged, a woman with hollow eyes and an expression twisted in anguish. It was Lydia. Her presence was both haunting and sorrowful, a reflection of her lost love and shattered dreams. "Why do you disturb my rest?" she hissed, her voice sharp like glass. "You seek Thomas? He is lost, just like me." "We know about your love for him," Edith said, her heart racing. "But you must let him go. He deserves to find peace with Eleanor." Lydia's face contorted with rage and grief. "You know nothing. I loved him more than she ever could. I did what I had to do to keep him." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and shadows danced along the walls. The atmosphere became thick with tension as Lydia's anger surged. You think you can break my curse? You're fools to think you can meddle in my affairs. With a sudden burst of bravery, Edith stepped forward. We don't want to fight you, Lydia. We want to understand. Please let us help you. In that moment, the shadows seemed to pause, as if considering her words. Help! Lydia's voice softened, revealing a glimmer of vulnerability. What can you offer me? We can help you find closure, Edith replied, her voice filled with conviction. Let us find Thomas together. You can finally be free of this pain. For a moment, Lydia hesitated, the conflict in her eyes evident. The room crackled with energy, the air thick with a mix of sadness and hope. If you truly wish to help, you must understand what happened that night. Only then can the curse be lifted. With that, Lydia beckoned them to follow her deeper into the house. They ventured into a room at the back, where remnants of her life lay scattered. An old mirror hung on the wall, its surface clouded with dust. Lydia gestured toward it, her expression a mix of anger and sorrow. Look into the mirror, she commanded. You will see the truth. As they gazed into the glass, the scene began to shift. They were transported back in time, witnessing the moment when Lydia, heartbroken and desperate, confronted Thomas on the very night he had disappeared. The tension in the air was palpable as they watched her plead for his love, while he struggled with his own feelings for Eleanor. Suddenly, a dark figure emerged, an unseen force that surged between them, forcing Thomas to flee. The vision shattered, and they found themselves back in the dim room, Lydia trembling with rage and grief. Do you see now? She cried. I was left with nothing but despair. I tried to keep him, but the darkness took him from me. Tears streamed down Edith's face as she understood the depths of Lydia's pain. You loved him so fiercely that it became a curse, she said softly. But holding on to that pain will only keep you trapped. In that moment, Lydia's expression shifted, the rage melting away as she faced the reality of her actions. What must I do? She whispered, vulnerability etched on her face. You must let him go, Edith urged. Release the bond you share and allow him to find peace with Eleanor. It's the only way for you to be free. With a deep breath, Lydia nodded slowly, her resolve strengthening. Then I will do it, but I need your help to break the darkness that binds us. As they formed a circle around Lydia, they chanted softly, calling upon the memories of love, loss, and forgiveness. They felt the energy swirl around them, the room pulsing with a mix of sorrow and hope. In that moment, the shadows began to dissipate and the mirror shimmered with light. Lydia's figure started to fade, her expression transforming from sorrow to serenity. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You have given me a chance to be free. As she vanished into the light, Edith and her friends felt an overwhelming wave of peace wash over them. The air was lighter, the oppressive weight of darkness lifted. They had done it. They had broken the curse. But as they turned to leave, they couldn't shake the feeling that the echoes of the past still lingered in the air. They knew they had only begun to understand the depth of the stories entwined within the Old Crestwood Hotel. And as they walked out into the cool night, a new adventure awaited them. A chance to honor the love that had endured through tragedy and to share the truth that had set them free. What do you think lies ahead for Edith and her friends as they navigate this new chapter? What other secrets might the hotel still hold? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As Edith and her friends stepped outside the crumbling house, the night air felt different, lighter, almost electric with newfound energy. The darkness that had clung to them for so long seemed to dissipate, leaving a trail of hope in its wake. They shared a glance, a silent understanding passing among them. They had done something profound, but their journey was far from over. Determined to honor Eleanor and Thomas, they made their way back to the Old Crestwood Hotel, eager to see if the atmosphere had changed. As they approached the entrance, they noticed that the heavy air around the building seemed to lift, as if the ghosts of the past were finally finding peace. Let's check room 121, Alex suggested, his voice filled with anticipation. Maybe Eleanor's spirit is finally free. As they entered the room, they were greeted by a surprising calm. The flickering lights had stabilized, and the heavy silence was replaced by a gentle warmth. The wardrobe stood open, as if inviting them in rather than holding secrets. Eleanor, Edith called softly, her heart racing with hope. "Are you here?" For a moment, there was silence. Then, like a whisper carried on the breeze, a figure began to materialize in the corner of the room. Eleanor appeared, her expression serene, her once sorrowful eyes now filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice like a soft melody. "You have given me the freedom I longed for." Tears welled in Edith's eyes as she felt the weight of their journey come full circle. "We couldn't have done it without understanding your story. You deserve to be at peace." Eleanor smiled, a radiant warmth enveloping her. "And now I can be. But there is one more thing I must ask of you. The love between Thomas and me must be honored. His memory should not fade." With that, the room began to shimmer, and they found themselves surrounded by images of a wedding. The scene of Eleanor and Thomas celebrating their love, laughter ringing through the air. It was a vision of joy, a stark contrast to the sorrow that had once consumed them. Edith and her friends watched, enraptured, as Eleanor turned to them. "You can help keep our story alive. Share it, so others remember the love that transcended tragedy." Determined to honor her request, they promised to document their experience and the history of the Old Crestwood Hotel, weaving together the threads of Eleanor and Thomas's love story. It felt like a fitting tribute, a way to keep their memory alive for generations to come. As the vision faded, Eleanor stepped closer, her presence becoming more ethereal. "I can now join Thomas. Thank you for believing in us, for helping us find peace." With those final words, Eleanor dissolved into a soft glow, leaving behind a sense of tranquility. The friends stood in silence, feeling the warmth of her gratitude linger in the air. They had not only freed Eleanor, but also brought closure to a story that had haunted the hotel for decades. But even as they celebrated their victory, a new thought crept into Edith's mind. "What about Lydia?" she asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "Do you think she found peace too?" "I hope so," Alex replied, glancing back at the hotel. "But we should find out." Lydia's pain was part of this story too, determined to ensure that all spirits were at rest. They agreed to return to the house one last time. As they stepped into the darkness, they felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. What if Lydia was still there, lingering in her sorrow? Back in the overgrown house, they focused on the mirror that had shown them Lydia's past. Edith closed her eyes and reached out, summoning the connection they had established. "Lydia, if you're here, we want to help you too." For a moment, nothing happened. The silence felt heavy, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. But then, the air began to shimmer, and Lydia's form appeared once more, her expression now softened by understanding. "Why have you returned?" she asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and caution. "We wanted to check on you," Edith said gently. "We helped Eleanor find peace. We believe you deserve it too." Lydia's eyes flickered with emotion, the sadness deep within her palpable. "Can you truly forgive me for what I did? I was consumed by my jealousy." "Yes," Edith replied firmly. "We understand that your love turned into something dark, but it doesn't have to define you. You can let it go." Tears welled in Lydia's eyes as she considered their words. "I never meant for it to end this way. I just wanted him to love me." "Love isn't about possession," Alex said softly. "It's about freedom. You have a chance to let go of the past and find your own peace." The room began to glow with a soft light as Lydia contemplated their words. The shadows that had once surrounded her began to lift, revealing the beauty of her spirit beneath the pain. "I will try," she whispered, her voice trembling. "For Thomas, for Eleanor, for myself." With those words, the mirror shimmered again, reflecting images of her past. moments of joy intermingled with sorrow. Lydia stepped forward, the shadows retreating as she approached the mirror. "I am ready to be free," she said, her voice gaining strength. As she disappeared into the light, the atmosphere shifted, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of relief. The friends stood together, knowing they had helped not just one spirit, but two. As they left the house, the stars twinkled above them, a sense of calm settling over the night. They had transformed a tale of tragedy into one of redemption, and now it was time to share that story with the world. In the following weeks, they worked tirelessly to document their experiences, weaving together the threads of love, loss, and forgiveness into a narrative that would honor Eleanor, Thomas, and Lydia. They presented their findings to the town, turning the Old Crestwood Hotel from a site of fear into one of reflection and remembrance. And as they shared the stories with others, they realized they had forged a bond that would last a lifetime, a connection not just to each other, but to the spirits they had helped. They had become the keepers of a legacy that bridged the gap between the living and the lost. As they stood in front of the Old Crestwood Hotel one last time, they felt a warm breeze brush past them, a gentle reminder that love, in all its forms, would endure even beyond the veil of death. "What do you think will happen to the hotel now?" Edith wondered aloud. "I think it will become a place of stories," Alex replied, a smile breaking across his face. "A place where love is remembered and celebrated." With a shared sense of purpose, they walked away, leaving the haunting echoes of the past behind, ready to embrace the future. Their journey had taught them the importance of compassion, understanding, and the power of love to transcend even the darkest of legacies. As the weeks turned into months, the Old Crestwood Hotel transformed into a vibrant part of the community. Edith and her friends had worked tirelessly, organizing events that honored the stories of Eleanor, Thomas, and Lydia. The hotel became a venue for storytelling nights, where locals gathered to share their own tales of love, loss, and redemption. The atmosphere within the hotel felt alive, the energy pulsing with shared memories and healing. It was as if the spirits that once haunted the halls were now woven into the very fabric of the place, guiding the living to embrace their own stories. One evening, during a particularly moving storytelling session, an elderly man stood up. His voice trembled with emotion as he recounted a love story from his youth, one that mirrored the themes of the stories that had come to life in the hotel. "I lost her long ago," he said, his eyes glistening, "but I never stopped loving her. Hearing these stories reminds me that love never truly dies." As the crowd listened, a warm hush enveloped the room. It was in that moment that Edith realized the power they had unlocked. By embracing the past, they had created a space for healing. The hotel was no longer a place of fear, but one of connection. After the event, Edith and her friends sat together, basking in the joy that had filled the room. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said, her heart full. "We've turned the hotel into a sanctuary for stories." Alex nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "But I can't help but wonder if there's more to uncover. What if there are other spirits waiting for their stories to be told?" That question lingered in the air, igniting a sense of curiosity in the group. They decided to delve deeper into the hotel's history, eager to uncover more tales that had been silenced. Armed with old records and the knowledge they had gained, they began to investigate the hotel's past, hoping to find more lost souls in need of resolution. As they explored the hotel's archives, they uncovered a treasure trove of forgotten stories, accounts of guests who had experienced strange occurrences and whispers of love and betrayal that lingered long after they left. Each tale added another layer to the hotel's history, and the friends felt a growing connection to the spirits that had once been trapped there. One particular story caught Edith's eye. A young couple had stayed at the hotel during the Great Depression, only to have their plans for a future together tragically interrupted by unforeseen circumstances. The records hinted at unfinished business, a love that had been abruptly cut short. Intrigued, they decided to investigate further. They pieced together clues, talking to local historians and digging through records until they finally traced the couple's names, Alice and William, They discovered that William had enlisted in the military and never returned, leaving Alice heartbroken and alone. Moved by the tale, the friends decided to hold a special event dedicated to Alice and William, inviting the community to share their stories of love and loss in a tribute to those who had faced separation. As the day approached, excitement buzzed through the hotel. On the night of the event, the hotel was filled with candlelight and the soft glow of fairy lights. Guests gathered in the grand hall, ready to honor Alice and William's love. As stories flowed, Edith felt a powerful energy building in the room. It was as if the spirits themselves were present, eager to join the celebration. When it was time to share Alice and William's story, Edith stood up, her heart racing. Tonight, we honor not just the love of Alice and William, but all the loves that have endured despite separation, she began, her voice steady. Their story reminds us that love can transcend time and circumstance. As she spoke, the temperature in the room dropped, a familiar chill that brought with it a sense of presence. The guests fell silent, captivated by the atmosphere. Edith continued, sharing the details of Alice and William's love, weaving in the themes of hope and resilience. Just as she finished, the lights flickered and a gentle breeze swept through the hall. The guests exchanged glances, a mix of awe and excitement. In that moment, Edith felt a connection to something greater. She could sense Alice and William's spirits joining them, their love enveloping the room like a warm embrace. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed in her mind. "Thank you." It was a whisper filled with gratitude, and Edith's heart swelled with joy. She understood then that they had once again created a space for healing, not just for the living but for the spirits who had once been trapped by their own grief. After the event, the friends gathered in the hotel's garden, the stars twinkling above them like a blanket of memories. "This is just the beginning," Alex said, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "We have so many more stories to uncover." Edith nodded, her heart racing with possibility. "Let's keep sharing these tales. Each one deserves to be remembered." As they gazed up at the stars, they felt a profound sense of purpose. The Old Crestwood Hotel had become a beacon of hope, a place where love transcended loss and stories lived on. They were determined to honor every spirit that had touched their lives, to keep the threads of connection alive. But as they embraced this newfound mission, a chilling thought crept into Edith's mind. What if there were darker stories hidden within the hotel's walls? What if not all spirits sought peace? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, but she pushed it aside, focusing instead on the warmth that surrounded them. With a renewed sense of purpose, the friends vowed to continue their journey of discovery, knowing that every story had the potential to heal not just the past but also the present. They had opened a door to the unknown, and with it came the promise of even more adventures, challenges, and connections. As the weeks passed, Edith and her friends dove deeper into their mission. They became known in the community as the keepers of the stories, and people began to approach them with their own tales of the Old Crestwood Hotel. Each story was a thread woven into the rich tapestry of the hotel's history, and the friends were eager to unravel it all. One day, while rummaging through old archives in the hotel's basement, Edith stumbled upon a dusty trunk, locked and hidden beneath a stack of forgotten furniture. The trunk looked ancient, its surface marked with intricate carvings that hinted at secrets long buried. "Guys, check this out," she called, her excitement bubbling over. The friends gathered around, eyes wide with curiosity. "I wonder what's inside," Alex said, running his fingers along the carvings. "It looks like it hasn't been touched in ages." After a few moments of searching, they found a small key hanging from a rusty nail on the wall nearby. Heart pounding, Edith inserted the key into the trunk's lock, her hands trembling with anticipation. With a click, the trunk sprang open, revealing a collection of yellowed letters, photographs, and a few personal items, a locket, a diary, and a worn-out pocket watch. As they sifted through the contents, Edith found a diary that belonged to a woman named Clara, a former guest at the hotel. Clara's entries chronicled her stay during a tumultuous time in the early 1900s, filled with tales of forbidden love and societal pressures. Each entry was imbued with a sense of longing and heartbreak. Clara was in love with a man named Henry, but their love was forbidden. Edith read aloud. They were from rival families, and Clara's father had arranged her marriage to someone else. The group was drawn into Clara's story, captivated by the passion and desperation in her words. It quickly became clear that their quest had uncovered yet another tale of love intertwined with tragedy. "Let's see if we can find out what happened to them," Mia suggested, her eyes shining with determination. Maybe they're still lingering here, waiting for their story to be told. The friends set off to explore the town's archives once more, piecing together Clara and Henry's fate. They learned that Clara had disappeared on the eve of her wedding, leaving behind a trail of whispers and speculation. Rumors had circulated that she had run away with Henry, but no one had ever confirmed it. As they delved deeper, they discovered that Clara and Henry had been spotted in the nearby woods, but the search parties had never found them. The mystery hung heavy in the air, and Edith felt an unsettling sense of urgency. "We have to find out what happened," she said. If they never found peace, their spirits could still be tied to the hotel. The friends decided to venture into the woods the following night, armed with Clara's diary and a sense of purpose. As twilight descended, they made their way through the trees, the rustling leaves whispering secrets that felt just out of reach. When they arrived at a clearing, they paused, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Edith opened Clara's diary, reading aloud passages about love, hope, and fear. As she spoke, the wind picked up, swirling around them like a living entity, carrying Clara's words into the night. "Clara, if you're here, we want to help you find peace," Edith called out, her voice steady despite the chill that crept along her spine. Suddenly, the temperature dropped dramatically, and the trees seemed to shudder. A figure began to emerge from the shadows, a woman in a flowing dress, her expression one of deep sorrow. Clara appeared before them, her features illuminated by the moonlight, the locket around her neck glinting in the dim glow. "Why have you come?" Clara's voice was soft yet filled with an urgency that resonated in their hearts. "We found your diary," Edith replied, stepping forward. "We want to help you and Henry. We want to understand what happened." Tears glimmered in Clara's eyes. "I ran away with him, but we were chased by our families. I thought we could be free, but fate had other plans. I lost him, and I've been lost ever since." The weight of her sorrow enveloped them. They felt her pain, her longing for the love that had been stolen away. "Clara, your love deserves to be honored," Mia said gently. "You don't have to linger here anymore. Please let me be free," Clara pleaded, her voice trembling. "But I cannot leave without knowing what happened to Henry. I must find him first." The friends exchanged glances, their hearts racing with determination. "We'll help you find him," Alex promised. "We'll uncover the truth together." With that, they set off deeper into the woods, guided by the whispers of the past and the flickering light of Clara's spirit. The trees loomed like ancient guardians, but they pressed on, each step resonating with purpose. Clara led them to a hidden path, the underbrush thick and tangled. At the end of the path, they stumbled upon a small, overgrown graveyard, the stones weathered and covered in moss. Among the graves, a simple headstone stood out, engraved with the name Henry Sullivan. Edith's heart sank as she realized the tragic truth. They had found Clara's lost love. "Oh, Clara," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "I'm so sorry." Clara stepped forward, her spirit shimmering with a mix of sorrow and relief. "He's here, but how do I set him free?" "Let's honor his memory," Edith said, her voice steady. "We can give you both a chance to be reunited in peace." The friends gathered around Henry's grave, forming a circle. They placed Clara's locket on the headstone and held hands, channeling their collective energy into honoring their love. As they spoke words of remembrance, the air crackled with energy and a warm light enveloped them. "Henry, your love still shines bright," Edith called, her voice rising with emotion. "You are not forgotten. Clara is here, and she loves you still." In that moment, The ground beneath them began to tremble, and a soft glow emanated from the grave. Clara's spirit flickered, her expression transforming from sorrow to hope. "Henry, my love," she cried, reaching out. As the light intensified, the figure of a man materialized beside her. Henry, his face radiant and free from the burdens of the past. The two spirits reached for one another, and as their hands touched, a wave of warmth enveloped the clearing. "Thank you," Clara whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "I can finally be with him again." With a final burst of light, Clara and Henry's spirits intertwined, ascending into the sky, leaving behind a tranquil silence that enveloped the woods. The friends stood in awe, their hearts swelling with a sense of accomplishment and peace. "We did it," Mia breathed, tears streaming down her face. "We helped them find each other." As they made their way back through the woods, the weight of their experiences settled on their shoulders, but it felt lighter now. They had opened the door to healing for another couple bound by love and loss. The next morning, they returned to the hotel, invigorated by their success. Word of their adventures had spread, and the hotel was abuzz with excitement. Guests shared their own stories, inspired by the tales of Clara and Henry. The hotel had become a haven for love, a place where spirits were honored and memories were cherished. But as they celebrated their victories, Edith couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. There were still shadows lurking in the corners of the hotel, waiting to be uncovered. What other stories lay hidden, waiting for someone to listen? "What's next?" Alex asked, a spark of curiosity in his eyes. "I think we should explore more of the hotel's history," Edith replied, a sense of determination in her voice. "There are surely more stories waiting to be told." As they gathered their materials, a sudden chill swept through the hotel, catching them off guard. The lights flickered, and for a moment, they felt a presence, stronger and more foreboding than before. "Did you feel that?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Edith said, her heart racing. "It feels different." As they exchanged glances, an unspoken understanding passed between them. They had awakened something in the hotel, a force that demanded to be heard. "What if we've disturbed something we shouldn't have?" Alex pondered, his brow furrowing with concern. "I don't know," Edith replied, her resolve hardening. "But we can't turn back now. We need to face whatever is here. We owe it to the spirits to understand their stories, even the darker ones." Determined to uncover the truth, they prepared for another round of exploration, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. With every step, they knew they were delving deeper into the hotel's mysteries. Mysteries that would reveal not just the past, but also test their bonds of friendship and courage. What do you think they'll encounter as they dig deeper into the hotel's history? Will they find more love stories, or something more sinister? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. As night fell, the Old Crestwood Hotel took on an eerie ambience. Shadows danced across the walls, and the air was thick with anticipation as Edith and her friends gathered in the lobby, armed with flashlights and their notes from Clara and Henry's story. The lingering chill they had felt earlier was still palpable, a reminder that they were not alone in their exploration. "We need to focus on the darker tales," Alex suggested, flipping through the pages of their notes. "If there's something sinister here, we have to understand it to help those spirits too." Mia nodded, her expression serious. "I found some references to guests who reported strange occurrences, voices, shadows, even sightings of a figure wandering the halls at night. It sounds like there could be more than one spirit at play." As they discussed their findings, Edith felt a shiver run down her spine. What if these spirits are tied to unresolved tragedies? Maybe they're angry or confused. We need to approach this carefully. Determined, they made their way to the second floor, where the reports of hauntings were the most frequent. The hallway stretched before them, dimly lit and lined with doors that seemed to hold countless secrets. With each creaking floorboard, Edith's heart raced, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through her veins. They stopped outside room 316, the door slightly ajar. "This is where some of the more intense reports came from," Mia whispered, Let's see what we can find. Pushing the door open, they stepped inside. The room was untouched, dust motes dancing in the faint light. But something felt off. The atmosphere was thick, heavy with a sense of despair. As they scanned the room, Edith noticed a framed photograph on the wall. It depicted a young couple, their faces filled with joy. "Who do you think they are?" Alex asked, pointing to the photo. "I'm not sure," Edith replied, stepping closer to examine it. "But I feel like I've seen them before." Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, causing the curtains to flutter violently. The lights flickered, and they all felt a jolt of energy pass through them. Edith's heart raced as a shadowy figure began to materialize in the corner of the room. A woman with hollow eyes and an expression of deep sorrow. "Help me," the figure whispered, her voice echoing with pain. "Mia, is that you?" Alex asked, panic rising in his voice. The woman shook her head, her form flickering like a candle flame. "I am Eleanor, trapped by my own despair." Edith took a step forward, her voice gentle. "Eleanor, we've heard about you. We're here to help." "What happened?" With a sigh that seemed to carry centuries of sorrow, Eleanor began to recount her story. "I was married to Thomas, but our love was never accepted. We were forced apart, and I lost my way in the darkness. I came to this hotel hoping to find him, but I was consumed by my grief." "We helped you find peace," Mia interjected, her eyes wide. "You can let go now." "No," Eleanor replied, her voice trembling. "There's more to my story, something dark that ties me to this place." "What do you mean?" Edith pressed, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. Eleanor pointed to the photograph on the wall. "That couple, they were my friends, Margaret and Joseph. Their love was a beacon of hope in my life, but tragedy struck. Their happiness turned into horror when jealousy and betrayal took root. They met their end in this very hotel, their spirits unable to find rest." As Eleanor spoke, the air grew colder, the shadows in the corners of the room deepening. Edith and her friends exchanged worried glances, the weight of Eleanor's words sinking in. "What happened to them?" Edith asked, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her. "They were entangled in a love triangle," Eleanor explained, her expression pained. "Margaret fell for Joseph, but I too had feelings for him. Consumed by jealousy, I inadvertently played a part in their demise, and now I am bound to this place, unable to leave until their story is told." "Where can we find them?" Alex asked, his mind racing with the implications. "Margaret and Joseph are still here, lost in their own sorrow," Eleanor replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "They linger in the shadows, haunted by what could have been, determined to help not just Eleanor, but also Margaret and Joseph." The friends steeled themselves for what lay ahead. "We need to find them," Edith said, her resolve solidifying. "We can't let another love story end in tragedy." As they left room 316, the atmosphere around them shifted. The chill was more intense, the shadows lengthening as they made their way down the hallway. They could feel eyes watching them, the weight of sorrow pressing down from every corner. Following Eleanor's guidance, they made their way to the ballroom, a grand space that had fallen into disrepair. Dust hung thick in the air, and the silence was palpable, broken only by the faint echo of music that seemed to resonate from the walls. "Do you think they're here?" Mia asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Edith replied, her heart pounding in her chest. "We need to reach out to them." They gathered in a circle, holding hands. "Margaret, Joseph," Edith called into the empty space. "We are here to help you. You don't have to be trapped anymore. Your love can be honored, but you need to let go of the pain." A sudden gust of wind whipped through the ballroom, scattering dust and sending shivers down their spines. The air crackled with energy, and slowly, two figures began to materialize, a man and a woman, their expressions filled with anguish. "Why are you here?" the man, Joseph, demanded, his voice deep and resonant. "What do you want?" "We're here to help you," Edith replied, her voice steady. "We want to honor your love, to ensure your story is remembered." Margaret stepped forward, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Our love was tainted by jealousy. I betrayed him, and now we're lost. We didn't mean for it to end this way," Joseph added, his voice trembling with emotion. "We were so blinded by our feelings, by the darkness." "Let us help you find peace," Mia urged, squeezing Edith's hand. "Your love deserves to be remembered, not for the pain, but for the joy it once brought." As they spoke, the temperature in the room dropped even further, a palpable weight pressing down on them. "Can you forgive yourselves?" Edith asked gently. "Can you let go of the anger and hurt?" In that moment, the shadows around them began to flicker and swirl, as if the very essence of their pain was materializing. The atmosphere was charged with emotion, the air thick with the weight of their regrets. "We cannot forget," Joseph said, his voice breaking. "We were never given a chance to be happy. But you can still honor what you had," Edith insisted, her voice rising with conviction. "You can let your love shine through even the darkness. Your story deserves to be told." As she spoke, Margaret and Joseph exchanged glances, a flicker of hope igniting in their eyes. "We need to remember the joy," Margaret whispered, "the love we shared." Edith felt a surge of energy as she continued to speak. "Then let's tell your story. Let the world know of the love you had, so it can be honored and cherished." With that, the shadows began to recede, and a warm light enveloped the figures of Margaret and Joseph. They reached for one another, their hands clasping tightly as they stepped closer to the light. "Thank you," Joseph said, his voice filled with warmth. "We will remember the joy." As they faded into the light, Edith felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over her. The ballroom was no longer filled with shadows, but rather a soft glow, a testament to the love that had once flourished there. Eleanor appeared beside them, her expression radiant. "You've done it. You freed them. Thank you for helping us all find peace." As they stood in the now transformed ballroom, the friends felt a bond stronger than ever, a connection forged through the stories they had unearthed and the spirits they had helped. But just as they began to celebrate their victory, a dark shadow loomed in the corner of the room, an ominous presence that sent chills down their spines. It felt like a reminder that not all stories had happy endings. What is that?" Mia asked, her voice quivering with fear. "I don't know," Edith replied, a sense of dread creeping in. "But we need to face it. Whatever it is, it won't rest until its story is told." Determined not to back down, they prepared to confront the darkness, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and resolve. They had uncovered tales of love and redemption, but now they faced something that hinted at the darker side of the human experience. What do you think this ominous presence could be? What dark secrets does it hold? And how will Edith and her friends confront it? A comment on what you think will open so many unraveled truth above this true scary story.